Hi, and welcome to Dittmer Knittery. My name is Bev, and you will find my contact information and any other information you might be looking for in the description box below. So if you're a new viewer, welcome! Thank you! I'm so glad you're here. I hope that you will watch this video and enjoy it, and that you will check out some of my other videos that are available. And to returning viewers, oh, I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here today. If you have been watching, you've seen that I've been doing kind of a series with some machine knitting, along with my usual crocheting and knitting and felting. Today I continue that series of showing the creation of the May Day bag, but now the piece is off the machine. And everything else I'm going to be doing, it will be handwork. I start with a review of picking up stitches. I've shown this before, but I think it's useful to see it again. And then I show another technique I think is very important. And this is, so much of today's video is dedicated to this one important technique that joins the edges of the pieces that you're going to knit together. To get that beginning join before you start the actual sewing the pieces together or joining the pieces however you're going to. I'm going to be using the mattress stitch, and I'll be showing that, I think, on the next video. And today I also would like to share, I think I've shown it before, but I'll be sharing again, a very special reference that I've used for many years to learn these basic techniques that I'm going to show today and in the future, and I continue to rely on this reference. I learned a lot of basics from it, and I keep it nearby. So let's watch this picking up of the stitches and those joining stitches to begin putting the two pieces together. Sewing the side seams is where we're beginning. Let's watch. Here is the strip of fabric that I have knitted on the machine that I'm going to sew up the side seams and make it into a bag. So this is what would be considered the front. This side will be embellished. Stripes on this other side, which we'll call the back. It's looking very nice. On the front, I have already picked up the stitches from the beginning edge, and I have them on this cord holding the live stitches. I'm going to pick them up by hand and continue knitting by hand. I still have to pick up these stitches on this edge. You can see that I have some waste yarn here and a piece of ravel cord, one row of ravel cord, and then the working yarn, the fabric. So I'm going to pick up the stitches to remove the waste yarn in the ravel cord, and again have live stitches on a cord that I can knit by hand. So some machine knitters don't use waste yarn or ravel cord, but I always have, and I like it. I like to be able to pick up these live stitches. I like the security of being able to take it off the machine and then continue. But of course, of these methods I show you, there are probably many other methods that can be used to do the same things. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit here to let you see how I pick up some of these stitches with, I have a interchangeable knitting needle on a plastic cord, and I no longer use these knitting needles for knitting. I keep them with my knitting machine, and I use them solely for this purpose, picking up stitches and holding stitches. I use these cords to hold the stitches once I've picked them up. And so these are my interchangeable knitting needles dedicated to my machine knitting. Makes it very handy. But of course, you can use any kind of needle holder, any kind of knitting needle to pick these up. Again, many methods, I'm sure, are available to accomplish the same thing. Start with this first edge stitch, pick it up, pick up the next one, And again, we're picking up the working yarn, of course. Once you've begun, you might get a little bit of a rhythm. If you've picked up stitches before, this is probably very familiar. And so I will continue across. It's 56 stitches across, I think. I believe that's correct. 56 or 58. Whatever I said before. Not looking at the pattern now. But you know, either one of those stitch counts would work. It's up to you. I've picked up all the stitches. There were 58. I counted them to be sure, of course. Before you remove the ravel cord and the waste yarn, you want to be sure that you have the proper number of stitches on your cord. And if you don't, you know, then you'll have a drop stitch and you'll be able to pick it up. So it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would be an inconvenience. So something that's really fun at this point is to pull out the ravel cord and get that ravel cord and waste yarn off the work. And you just pull the ravel cord through until the end comes out. If you have a large piece, sometimes this is a little bit more difficult, but on this small piece it happens very easily. And see, I have all the stitches on the cord as I pull this piece of ravel cord yarn out of here. And once that comes out, the waste yarn falls away. And I have all of the stitches for the top of the bag. Sorry about that. So I have all of the stitches for the top of the bag on cords holding them live stitches. And I will be able to move all of these stitches onto one cord so it will be in a circle, the edges will join, and I will sew the side seams. I'll show you that. Take that piece of cord off and join it to this. Snap it in place there. And then all of these stitches can flow onto this side of the cord, this part of the cord. And I can then join this cord, move the needle. I have these little connectors. And join this. And I have all of the stitches for the top of the bag on one holder. And I'll be able to pick them up and knit in the round. But first, I will sew these side seams with mattress stitch. Where we tapered these edges, increased and decreased at the bottom of the bag, those will sew together nicely and make that curve at the bottom of the bag. So we've come quite a long ways. And as I mentioned in the last video or the one before, that up to this point, before I begin the handwork, I could have done most of this on the machine in one day. So if you haven't watched all of these videos, it's something you probably could do in a day or two, watch them all and see how the process all flows together. I hope that someone is able to do that. That was a spare cord I didn't need anymore. So I'm quite pleased with the progress. I do have some loose ends to weave in, but not a lot. And good progress on a very, very fun project. This is the book I credit with helping me learn to knit. Stitchin' Bitch, The Knitter's Handbook by Debbie Stoller. I bought this book before I learned to knit at the recommendation of my aunt, who was one of my knitting mentors, and I found it very useful to the point that poor thing is just falling apart. And although I have a newer, better copy, I continue to use this one because here it falls open to the pages that I need. That's why it's broken there, because these are the pages that I used the very most. The seaming and joining and things like that. The Kitchener stitch is included in here, and the mattress stitch. But the first thing I'm going to show you is how I begin to join, to sew these side seams. I start at the top where the two pieces join as I folded them in half, and I begin as it shows in this book. And then I begin to do the mattress stitch as it shows in this book. So I'm going to show that a little bit close up. Something I've often said about this book is that I found these illustrations very helpful. I think they're large enough and bold enough that you can really get an idea of where the needle and the hooks are going, the needles are going in and out, and how the work is being done. This shows how to begin a side seam, sewing side seams. And you join your yarn almost any way you're going to sew the side seams or the top seams. You join your yarn to connect those first corners in the same way. Begin by threading a yarn needle with a length of yarn long enough to sew the entire seam, with at least 12 inches left over. Then tack the yarn in place by pulling the needle up through the rightmost corner stitch at the bottom of the left-hand piece. Secure the yarn by inserting the needle back up through the same hole. Now, bring the yarn up through the leftmost corner stitch at the bottom of the right-hand piece, and then up through the same hole in the left-hand piece. Pull taut. You've made a little figure 8. And the two corners of your fabric should be right up close together. Now, depending on what kind of join you're making, you'll follow one of these methods. And so then we're going to do the mattress stitch. But like I said, I have found this book so very helpful, and in particular this advice about how to get started at the very top to make your mattress stitch or other joins get a very good start. I have threaded a yarn needle with a length of yarn. I hope it's long enough to do the entire seam. But this is the yarn that I was using to knit on the machine, and I just cut off a length of it. So it's already attached to the piece, which makes it a little bit more convenient to get started. But I'm not sure that I estimated enough to do the whole seam. Okay, let's see if we can get this seam started. Tack the yarn in place by pulling the needle up through the rightmost corner stitch at the bottom of the left-hand piece. The left-hand piece, this, the rightmost corner. So that stitch right there. secure the yarn by inserting the needle back up through the same hole. Now bring the needle up through the leftmost corner stitch at the bottom of the right hand piece. The right hand piece. The leftmost corner stitch at the bottom of the right hand piece. Then pull up through the same hole in the left hand piece. Pull taut. You don't need to make it taut until you've completed the little figure 8. And the 2 corners of my fabric are snug together, and I can begin to mattress stitch. Coming right along. It's starting to look a little bit like a bag, isn't it? And I would like to have it finished, completely finished, for the upcoming fall art festivals. Now, for me, this is Labor Day weekend. This is Sunday of Labor Day weekend. I have another day off tomorrow. Yay. Yes, I'm very happy for days off and being able to spend time with you. Yes, yes, okay. So for me, it's Labor Day weekend, but you probably won't see this video and the next one until late September. And by then, I will be getting closer and closer to those fall festivals that I'm participating in. I've been accepted to 2 juried art festivals, and I'm taking some time off work, and I have some support from friends, and I feel as prepared as I can be for that. It's 2 weekends in a row in October, and that's very unusual for me, unprecedented. I've never done 2 important shows that close together. But so back to that, I wanted to have this bag finished, this May Day bag finished in time for that. And so as I move into the hand techniques, I may not be spending as much time showing these hand techniques, which are sewing, a little bit of knitting, joining, things like that. I will show the important points. Like I said, I have an important technique today, another important technique next week, and then I think I even have one more that's just an important technique that I'm going to share. That's a knitting technique, a joining technique. So I have those things lined up for you. And then when I have the bag all made, have it all together, I still have to hot water felt it, shape it and dry it. And then I want to embellish it with needle felting. So I have a ways to go. This project does have a long creation arc, and that's part of what I love about these kind of projects is from the very beginning of the planning to then seeing what it looks like in the end. May or may not look anything like the plan, may or may not. It's a lot of fun, and it's very satisfying, and it makes me so happy to have you along with me on this adventure, this journey, as we get a lot closer to having something that's going to be an actual felted bag. Thank you for watching. Come back and watch, because like I said, there's more. I have more lined up for you when I get to the hot water felting part, which may be, a little ways down the road. When I get to that part, I'll be sharing that with you. So keep watching and keep making. Thank you.